everyone, my name's Jaylene Zuccarini, and today I'm going to be showing you how medical terms are built, broken down, and understood. So I want you to think of medical terms like puzzle pieces. Once you know how the pieces fit together, you can figure out almost any word. To make it a little bit fun, I brought a pipe cleaner and some colorful beads. So let's get started.
First, we're going to talk about prefixes. Prefixes come before roots to modify meaning, often indicating number, time, position, or status. Here you can see me creating the word Brady, which means slow. If we put cardia after Brady, it means slow heart rate when put together. Another prefix is hyper, which means excessive. And here I'm creating the word hypertension, which means high blood pressure. And one last example to make sure prefixes stick is pre, which means before, and I put that before natal to mean before birth. Okay, now we can move on to roots, which are the core of the word. This gives the essential meaning, and often it's an organ or a body part. You can see for our first example, I put cardi, which means heart, and then I put ology at the back of it to make cardiology. Another example of a root word is gaster, which means stomach, and I put itis behind it to make gastritis. Here you can see me creating the word nepher, which means kidney, and then I put ology behind it to make nephrology. Now let's talk about combining forms. Combining forms are a root word with a combining vowel, which is usually O. It's attached to make a pronunciation easier. Just a heads up, normally there's a slash before the combining vowel, but I didn't have any slashes in my pack of beads, so I'm so sorry, just imagine it's there. For our first example, we have dermat/o, which means skin, like in dermatology. Another example is osteo, which means bone, like in osteoporosis. And lastly, we have hemato, which means blood, like in hematology. Okay, let's get into suffixes. Suffixes come at the end of a word to indicate procedure, condition, or disease. My first example is itis, which means inflammation, like in arthritis, which is inflammation of a joint. Next example is logy, which means study of. If you put cardi in front of it, you will get cardiology, which means the study of the heart. Lastly, we have the suffix ectomy, which means surgical removal. If you put append in front of it, you'll get appendectomy, which means removal of the appendix. When building medical terms, you'll need to follow some rules. Rule number 1, a root is usually combined with a suffix that begins with a vowel directly. That means we don't need a combining vowel. For example, nepher plus itis will equal nephritis. Rule number 2, if the suffix begins with a consonant, keep the combining vowel. For example, cardio plus logy, cardiology. And rule number 3, when combining two roots, use the combining vowel even if the second root begins with a vowel. Example, gastro plus entero plus logy equals gastroenterology. When breaking down medical terms, follow these rules. Rule number 1, start with the suffix, the ending, and define it first. Rule number 2, look at the prefix if present and define it. And rule number 3, define the root or combining forms in order. This method helps you translate terms correctly. Let's look at pericarditis. The suffix itis means inflammation, peri means around, and cardio means heart. Next we have endoscopy. The suffix scopi means viewing, and endo means inside. And lastly, we have thrombosis. Osis means condition, and thrombo means clot. Some prefixes, roots, and suffixes can be confusing because they look or sound similar but mean very different things, like the prefix hypo, which means low, and hyper, which means high, like in hypoglycemia, low blood sugar, versus hyperglycemia, which means high blood sugar. Another tricky one is nepher, which means kidney, versus ner, which means nerve. And these are tricky because the words look alike and both start with NE. Two suffixes that normally trip me up are osis and itis. They just look and sound very similar. To close out our lesson, we're going to go over some suffixes. The first one is gram, which means a record or picture. An example is an ECG, an electrocardiogram, which is a record of the heart's electrical activity. We take out the M and add PH. We have graph, which means an instrument used to record. An example is an electroencephalograph, which is a device that records electrical activity in the brain. Next, we have graphy, which means the process of recording. An example is mammography, the process of taking an X-ray image of the breast. The suffix scope means instrument used for viewing. An example is a microscope, which is a tool used to view very small objects. Similar suffix is scopy, which means process of viewing. An example is an endoscopy, which is the process of using a scope to look inside the body. Stomy means cutting into. An example is gastrotomy, which is a surgical incision into the stomach. If we add "ect" to the beginning of this word, we get ectomy, which means removal or excision. An example is mastectomy, which is the removal of the breast. If we add "s" to the beginning of Tommy, we get stomy, which means creating an opening. An example is tracheostomy, which is a surgical creation of an opening into the trachea.
So now you can see how prefixes, roots, and suffixes fit together like puzzle pieces. This makes it super easy to learn new medical terms and avoid mistakes in the end. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed my video and learned something.